Morning, everyone. Hope you're well and had a nice Shabbos. Obviously, we start by expressing and stating the obvious, which is, of course, we are shell-shocked, devastated, numb with pain over the sudden and unexpected loss of Rabbi Lord Sacks, somebody who we all revered, somebody who we looked up to, was very much a mentor, and the chief rabbi to all of us when he was chief rabbi, and he remained the rabbis long after he retired. And for Gila and I in particular, it's devastating news, and we're still reeling from it. And of course, there will be an opportunity. There is on Facebook already. I've written a few words, but there will be a proper opportunity for us to have a dedication, an evening where we will be able to celebrate his life's works and dedicate them in memory of his soul, and that we will do in due course. But today we dedicate the learning in his memory, as long as the regulars that we do, in memory of Leah Bas Bible, Tzivi Bas Mordechai, Abram ben Dov Slavin, Shalom ben Yisrael Morris, Eliezer Shalom ben Avram Shmuel Beret, Beret Vegel, Besrulim Baruch, Shalom ben Eleli, Beina Bas Bible, from Shoshana Bas Yaakov Shmuel, Yirmiyahu Yecheb ben Echav Moshe, Eliezer Sarah Malka Bas Binyamin. Wish each and every one of their respective families long life. So I want to start, I guess, by sharing an idea that a beautiful idea that Rabbi Sacks actually said, and that is, he mentioned about the fact that we have two sources of water in the land of Israel. In the Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel, there are two sources of water. One is the Dead Sea, and one is the Kinneret. Okay, one, the Dead Sea, has nothing living in it, whereas the other one, there is it's full of life. The Kinneret is full of life. So why is it that one is full of life and one is dead? And he said that the Dead Sea is a source of water that receives but does not give, whereas the Kinneret, its water is distributed across the whole of Israel and beyond into the Jordan and other places, and therefore, because it gives as well as getting, therefore it is alive. If a person doesn't give and one only takes, then one is not alive, one is dead. And that is, of course, true with the heart as well. It gives blood and it takes blood. If you don't give, then you can't take and you can't pump. So the source of life is giving, and he gave so much to each and every one of us. He gave of his time so generously, and literally day and night he lived for the Jewish people. Tremendous loss, but also at the same time as mourning that loss, we should celebrate the legacy which he left us, which is his teachings, which will live on through his students and through his writings. So let's start with another of the gates. Obviously, I'm a bit flustered. It's all a bit, I haven't slept much, so let me try and gather my thoughts. So I'm trying to remember where we're up to. Did we do the gate of worry? Let's ask the listeners, the viewers. Firstly, good morning to Neil, Michelle, Rachel, Peter, Caroline, Sarah, Eitan, Neil again, Eitan again, Estelle, and hold on, and Powell and Mervyn. Okay, so did we do the gate of worry? I don't think we've done the gate of worry. Okay, don't worry, we're going to do it right now. Okay, so the word in Hebrew for worry is da'aga. Okay, so is worrying. What would be the possible benefit of worrying? Okay, it makes us old, it makes us gray. Why would we ever have any benefit to worry? Right? Okay, Neil, can you give me the full Hebrew name? Because I don't have that list here. Tzvi Meir. If you want to give me the full Hebrew name, and then I'll be able to dedicate the learning in his memory, Neil. Tzvi Meir Ben. I just need the rest of the name, and then I can dedicate it. So, worry is a trait which is evil in most of its manifestations. Right? So, what is the idea of worrying? The idea is that worrying, of course, doesn't mean that anything results from that worry. Okay? Very often it leads to a greater state of paralysis. Okay, I've got the full name. Sorry, we're just going to go back. Tzvi Meir Ben Abraham We dedicate learning in his memory, and we wish Neil long life, along with all those others that we mentioned. So the idea of worrying means that I feel that there is something which is on my mind, which I feel I don't have necessarily control, and I want to make sure I'm like willing something to happen that I don't actually have control over. So worrying actually doesn't change anything. It just causes us to be more anxious and to be in a greater state of paralysis, right? And we find, in fact, that when the Jewish people found themselves with their backs to the sea, right, at the time of the splitting of the sea, the Egyptians were heading towards them, the sea was behind them, there was no way out. What was God's response? Moshe started to pray, and God's response was, why are you praying to me? Just travel, just move forwards, okay? The same way that you can move forwards on land, you can move forwards into the sea, okay? And there were different fractions and factions that were divided. There were 4 different groups with different responses. And for the main part, there was that worry, okay? There was only one group actually wanted to move forwards, tribe of Benjamin, right? And most of them just were in a state of paralysis. They were. Some wanted to fight, some wanted to go back to Egypt, but all of them were caught up in a state of worry. Worry also comes from a lack of emunah, a lack of faith. Because if you have faith and trust in God, then you should know that that everything is out of your hands. You've done what you can, and now I relinquish control and I pass the keys over to God, over to you, right? We worry when we believe that we are still in control when we're not in control. That's really when it happens. That's what I think. Let's see what he says. Worry over attaining anything in this world is extremely reprehensible. It's not found at all in those who trust in Hashem and believe in him. Exactly the point that we just said. Because if a person believes in God, right, then you hand over the worries, the concerns, the responsibility to God. I've done mine. I've done everything that I possibly could, and now it is over to him. Worry and sorrow erode the heart and are the sickness of the body. The worst of worries is pursuing transgressions, and worrying and suffering is not attaining all his heart's desires. Right? We're very far from Torah, mitzvahs, and prayer. Therefore, we must take great heed to correct this trait and remove it from him or herself. It's not necessary to elaborate upon its evils, for all good resulting from joy is reversed in the case of worry. Okay, obviously, if you are in a state of worry, you are not going to have joy. It's impossible to be joyous and worrisome at the same time. So, are there any positives to worrying? When should we worry? Okay, anyone want to make a suggestion as to when we should worry? Reflect that there are also positive aspects to worry, as the prophet says, for what should a living man lament? Each one should lament over his sins. The sinner must increase the sorrow in his heart and groan in bitterness of heart over having rebelled against the creator of all. So, this is a critical point. Are we meant to worry over the fact that we have done something wrong? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, we are meant to worry, because if we don't worry at all, if we just have completely nonchalant about life, we don't care about it, we don't reflect on the past, then we just keep going forward and are oblivious to all the mayhem that we are creating in the path that we trespass on. But if a person is worrying, you're thinking, you're reflecting, hold on, what did I just do? Was that the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? So it's not meant to be that we stay in a state of worry, but it is a necessary step for reflection, for introspection, in order for us to be able to make the necessary adjustments in our lives. So worry is not a state of being. It is a tool that we are meant to use that is meant to trigger our self-reflection in order for us to make any necessary improvements in our lives. Okay, so if we were to imagine that we have a GPS, okay, if you're a GPS, it is hovering over you. Now, if you make a wrong turn on the GPS, which, just let me reassure you, I do more often than everyone else, then what happens is immediately it is worrying, quote unquote, about the fact that you have now gone wrong. It will then reroute you or reroute you, depending if it's an American voice or an English voice, and then moves on. It doesn't stay in a state of flux and worry. For that split second, it worries in that you are not where you are meant to be, and it reroutes you. And as long as you're rerouted, then and you keep going on the path, you come back on track, then the worry is gone. And so therefore, worrying is only of benefit in rerouting us and ensuring that we reflect to make the necessary adjustments that we need to in life. If you go through life and you're completely oblivious to the sensitivities for every other person around you, then yes, it is exceptionally bad. Okay, because at the end of the day, if you are trampling all over people's feelings, you're insensitive, you're inconsiderate, right? And you're not thinking about what you are doing, you're not reflecting, because there's always room for improvement. But as long as we are able to reflect on it, make the necessary changes, then move on, leave the worry behind. So in other words, when I've done everything that I possibly could, then I have to stop. I have to draw a line, and now I have to have faith and leave it over to God. I can't sit back, fold my arms, and say, right, I'm just going to sit here and wait for God to do everything for me. That's not what we are talking about. Okay? The whole thing that we are meant to do is we are meant to do what we've got to do, reflect whether we did what we were meant to. That's the worry. Once we have done that and we've made the necessary changes, or we know we've done everything we can and there's no more that we can do, move on, draw a line, and forget about it. Okay? That is the only way to live. The worrying, I know from personal experience, I know from I know from people that have shared with me, it literally saps all the positive energy from us. It can be the Yetzer Hara, it can be the evil inclination that literally we are in the shackles of worry, and it can stop us being productive and constructive. So it's only possible benefit of worry. When is it? It's when we are worrying whether we need to consider whether we did something wrong. We consider, we analyze, we reflect, we make the changes, or we say we've done everything we can, there is nothing more, no, we didn't do it, and then we draw a line and we move on. Okay? We cannot live in the past or live in a state of paralysis. Now we carry on with Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even when I walk in the valley of darkness, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Memorial prayer. Adonai Lamim Zacho Es Nishmais. Le'bas Bible to Le'bas Mordechai. Avram ben David Slavin. Shlomo ben Yisrael. Morris. Etzipar Peglebas Ben Baruch. Shalom ben Elili ben Bas Bible from Shambas Yakushmo. Yirmiyahu Yachib ben Achav Moshe. Eliezer Sramalka Bas Ben Yomin. And we had somewhere here. Tzvi Meir ben Abraham, Shalachul Ilhamam, Bagad Eden Temunucha, Sam Lachem Malarachamim, Yasirim Besesa Kanapavianamim, Vietsabas Kentishmasam, Adonai Unachlasam, Vianuch Bishlamish Kavam, Venomar, Amen, Fushlema, Misha Verachavas in Rabim, Yaakov, Moshe Aaron Davishlomo Ivat, Rabes Achelim, Babu Shanam Ispalim, Babu Ram, Vizchazel Kadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachim Aleichem, Lach Malachosam, Vishlach Lem Fushlim Shmaim Lachavim Besor Shachal Yisrael, Refus HaNefesh, Refus HaGuf, Hashabak Zman Karev and Amar, Amen. You know, there is so many things that Rabbi Sacks taught us and taught the rabbis. You can imagine over 17, 18 years, how many conferences, how many times I heard him. But I remember one of the questions, we had an opportunity near the end of his tenure. It was the last dinner we had with him, just the rabbis. And remember somebody asked him about, you've had so much success, 25 or 30 books, and you've spoken around the world over, and you've won so many plaudits, so many awards, so many commendations. Do you know what it is to fail? He said, fail? Do you know how many times I have failed in my life? He says, you can't even imagine. And this is the story that we hear time and again. And friends, I want to tell you something, because I was up late last night, and I share a bit with you. Obviously, you reflect and you say, look at this colossus, this giant of a rabbi, this giant of a man. And we look at ourselves and we say, who are we? What are we doing in this world? We're doing nothing, achieving nothing. And he was, why can't we be something like him? But when you hear that he, on his level, had countless failures and setbacks in his life that he shared with us. So it means that we also, everyone treads a different path. And when we have those failures, we have to embrace it, because those are steps towards growth and towards success and accomplishment. Think about a ladder, okay? A ladder, you can never, ever go up unless you're prepared to push down. You have to push down in order to push yourself up. And therefore, that is the way that we have to look at our lives. It's easy to be despondent, to say, what am I? Who am I? What am I going to achieve? Everyone else seems to be moving and growing and developing and success and accomplishment. Realize and recognize the important lesson that even great people always have setbacks, and that is the road to success. Wishing everyone a great day. Just to let you know that I do know that it is a private funeral. Of course, the numbers are limited, and it is literally nearest and dearest, his family, and we will respect their wishes for privacy at this difficult time. I'm sure there will be details that we will be able to release as to how people can be able to share their reflections and to pay their respects through letters and emails. As soon as we have those details, we will share them with the community. In the meantime, the best thing that we can do is do what he wanted, which is to keep growing, to keep going, to keep learning. That is what he was all about. He said, first and foremost, why he retired from being chief rabbi is because he wanted more time to teach. More time to teach. To quote him, he said, a good leader creates followers, a great leader creates leaders. And that's what we have to do. We have to follow in his ways, learn from him, and to be able to become leaders to inspire the next generation. It's never been more important, more necessary than now. Keep well, keep safe, look after yourselves. Have a great day. Take care.